Hey guys, the results of the second 3D modeling community challenge is finally there, after almost a year. I just wanted to let you know that it was the last challenge on the channel. It takes too much time to review all the entries and I want to focus on tutorials. As usual, let me take a few seconds to talk about the sponsor of this video, JLC3DP.com. JLC3DP is a company that offers some amazing services. They do 3D printing but also CNC machining. They have a wide choice of materials: plastic, nylon, fully transparent resin, black resin, metal, and you can also print your models in full color. If you want to use their services, you just have to create an account on the website, upload your file, and you can choose between 4 formats such as STL, STP, STEP, and OBJ. They provide a lot of different 3D printing technologies such as stereolithography, multi-jet fusion, selective laser melting, fused deposition modeling, selective laser sintering, and white jet process. Your order will be completed within 38 to 72 hours and can be delivered in 3 days worldwide. Every new user can get a $60 free coupon to spend on the website. Click on the link in the description to get your coupon. Okay, on this one, what can I say? It's not finished. We have a lot of topology problems. The edge flow is not very good. We have a lot of pinching. The surfaces are not smooth. You left a big hole at the bottom. The dimensions are off. You didn't respect the original design. Let's take a look at the renders. There are no textures, no lighting. The size of the render is very small. The topology doesn't look uniform. I think that this mesh is too subdivided, especially in this area, there, and at the bottom. The topology is a mess there. The edge flow is quite good, except in this area. I noticed that you left a gap under the buttons. Let's take a look at the surfaces. I can see some distortions in the reflections, especially there. Alright, we have some pinching there, some distortions. We have a problem there and also there. This area should be flat. I can see that it isn't, and we can also see it with the reflections. Let's take a look at the renders. Okay, so the background and the lighting could be improved. I don't like this big highlight. The textures are not very visible. I can only see the normal maps if I zoom in. This texture is blurry, and I think that the material should be more reflective. This area doesn't look very good. And this big highlight is not very aesthetic. I think that your texture is stretched there. Okay, on this one the topology is rather uniform. I can already see some problems, especially there. The edge flow is a mess. If I disable the subdivision surface modifier and I select these, as you can see, the curvature is not good. You also have a lot of problems there, especially there, 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 there. We have some problems there as well. The surfaces are not smooth. We have some pinching there. These edges are too close to each other on a curved surface. Let's take a look at the surfaces. We can see a lot of distortions there. We can see the strong pinching there. Let's take a look at the renders. Okay, so I didn't see it, but you tried to model the inside. That's good. The normal map is too strong. The mouse is too shiny. The pinching there doesn't look very good. You added a bump there, but this area should be smooth. The shapes of the buttons are off. Okay, so we can see that the polygon density is not even. These parts are too subdivided. We can also see some intersecting parts. The topology looks rather okay on these top parts, but if we take a look at the bottom, it's a complete mess. It's far too subdivided. And also when you model something, try to avoid visible holes there, because I can see inside of the model. And this part doesn't have any thickness. We can see the pinching there and there. That's because we have too many close edges on a curved surface. You also have to be careful there. You have a hole and we have some intersecting geometry there. If I turn off the subdivision surface modifier and isolate this, I can clearly see some intersecting faces. Okay, on this one, I like the staging, but I'm just going to judge the mouse. As you can see there, the render is noisy, and we have some pinching there. We have some small distortions there. On this render, we can see some pinching there, also there, there, and we can also see a gap there. The size of the gap is not consistent. Okay, let's take a look at the topology. So at first glance, we can notice that this part is too subdivided compared to the other parts. I don't see any major topology problems. However, I can notice some pinching, so let's change the matte cap. And I can see some problems there. I can see some distortions there because the topology is not optimal there. We can see some pinching there as well, a lot of pinching and a lot of distortions. You also added some transparent planes to do the buttons textures. Let's take a look at the renders. So as you can notice, the proportions are off. We can see a lot of distortions there. You could also improve the background, the texturing and the lighting. It would be better to have a seamless background. I can see a dark line there, it's not very aesthetic. On this one, the topology looks rather okay on most parts. It could be way better on the buttons. It is way too subdivided there, and the edge flow is kind of weird. On the scroll wheel we have too many edges, and also there are some small details there and there. You don't have to model them. Usually these parts are not visible. At the bottom we can see some problems there. This part is sharp and this part is rounded. The two parts should match. If I put a shiny matte cap, we can see some distortions there. The rest look quite good, I think. We can see some pinching there as well. That's because we have too many edges there on a curved surface. Here on the buttons we have some distortions as well. We have a lot of pinching there. If I isolate this part, that's because of this bevel there. And these two diamond polygons, they are breaking the smoothness of the surface. We can also see some pinching there. And the roundness of the buttons and the holes is not even. We have a sharp button and a rounded hole. I like the staging effort. The texturing looks okay. The material should be a little bit more reflective. It seems that the scroll wheel is not textured or it has the wrong color. And at the bottom the textures looks very weird there. They look stretched. And I like this little button. Okay, on this one, the topology looks good. The polygon density is a little bit dense in some areas, especially in this one and this one. I don't see any major problems. The edge flow is quite good. I can see some weird edge flow in this area. And if I disable the wireframe, I can see some pinching there. We have some weird edge flow at the bottom as well. These edges are not straight. Same with this circle. It should be aligned with the mouse. Let's take a look at the surfaces. The surfaces look smooth. Okay, I don't see any major pinching, except in this area. There, we can see it clearly. We can still see a hole on the left there. We can see inside the mouse. Okay, same on this side. The roundness of the hole there is not perfect. I can see some pinching in this area. And we have some small distortions in this area. Okay, let's take a look at the renders. The textures are okay. I like the normal map on the buttons and on this side of the mouse. We can see some weird shading there in this area. And I like the roughness variations on the buttons. Congratulations. Okay, so at first glance, I can already see some distortions there. Okay, let's check the topology. So you tried to model the logo. The polygon density is rather even, except on these two parts. I don't see any major topology problems. You have some intersecting parts there. I think that on this part you could add a support loop to avoid getting these stretched polygons. Same here. Let's take a look at the surfaces. Okay, so as I said earlier, we have a little bit of distortions there. A lot there. The bottom looks fine. We have some pinching there as well, in the corners, and also there on the corners of the buttons. Let's take a look at the renders. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of this big reflective surface. The mouse is floating. Not a big fan of the background and the lighting. You should use an HDRI. I like the glowing effect. You didn't add the normal maps in the textures, but I like to see that red laser light. Alright, on this one we have a rather good edge flow, a good polygon density. This area could be improved because, as you can see, there are more edges there than there. It can make some pinching and distortions on curved surfaces. There is a hole there, the angle is not the same there and there. The bottom part has a good topology. And I noticed that you also modeled the inside. That's great. The scroll wheel hole could be smaller. Let's take a look at the surfaces. Here we have a lot of distortions. We can see it in the reflections. We have some shading problems there. The surface is also distorted there. Okay, we can see through the model there. And we also have some pinching there. Let's take a look at the renders. Alright, I like the glow. I like the fact that you modeled the inside of the mouse. That's a pretty decent job. Congrats. Alright, on this one we have a rather uniform topology. These two buttons are too dense. You left some endgones there. Also there. There is no support loops as well. We have some topology problems there on the corners. Let's take a look at the surfaces. Okay, so we can see some small distortions there. A little bit there as well. Okay, we have some pinching in this area. Same there around the buttons. The shape of these polygons is not smooth. We can see inside of the mouse. There is some pinching there on the wire because you don't have enough geometry. Let's take a look at the renders. Alright, I like the framing, I like the composition. I think that the mouse is too shiny. The normal map looks good, even though it's a little bit too strong. I like the fact that you made different renders. It looks cool. The lighting is okay, I like it. This render is a little bit noisy, but I like the depth of field. The mouse is a little bit too dark in this area, but you did a good job. Congratulations. On this one we have a rather uniform mesh. The edge flow is good, I don't see any major problems. Be careful, this part needs more subdivision. Take a look at the bevels there and there, if I add some loops. Before we had some very stretched bevels. If I add some support loops, the stretching is gone. You could do the same there, you could add a loop. I don't see any thickness there on this side of this part. And same on this side, there. It's very visible. Let's take a look at the surfaces. Alright, these areas are very smooth. That's great. This area could be improved a little bit. However, I can see some pinching in these areas on the wire. Let's take a look at the renders. Okay, so the picture is too dark. The logo is not very smooth, especially in this area. This render is very noisy and the lighting could be better. But you still did a great job, the modeling is good. Okay, on this one, this is rather uniform. This area looks weird, the edge flow is not very good. Your geometry is intersecting. I can see the inside of the mouse, as you can see there. You have some topology problems there. You left a big gap between the buttons and the body of the mouse. I like what you did with the wire. It's very good. Let's take a look at the surfaces. We have some pinching there and some distortions. You tried to model the inside, so that's good. This area doesn't have any thickness. Let's take a look at the renders. I like the lighting, I like the background. The texturing is good. I think it's too dark in some areas, especially there and there. I like the depth of field. The texturing looks very good. This area looks very nice. I like it. This one has a rather uniform polygon density. I like it. The edge flow is good. I don't see any major topology problems, except there. The bottom part looks great. Let's take a look at this. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of this diamond polygon on the bevel, but that's fine. If I had to do this, it would be better to connect like this. Remove this, push this there, and remove this edge. So that way the bevel would be protected from being distorted. You also made the wire, so it's great. Let's take a look at the surfaces. I don't see that much distortions. We have a little bit of pinching there. Also there. The bottom looks fine. This area is too sharp. That's because we have some very close edges there. Let's take a look at the renders. Okay, so I don't know why this texture is blurry. It shouldn't. You added the normal map, so that's great. I have a feeling that the proportions are off. I can see a little bit of distortions there. On this one, we can see a good topology. The edge flow is great. I don't see any major problems. I think that this hole is a little bit too wide compared to the size of the scroll wheel. Same for the buttons. They can be a little bit larger. Now, if I put a shiny matte cap, the surfaces are smooth. We can see a little bit of distortions there. Just a little bit. And also there, a little bit. We have a little bit of distortions there, but it's normal, I think. That's because we have a pole there on a curved surface. Let's take a look at the renders. Okay, on the renders, I think that you could work more on the background. The texturing and the lighting could also be better. It looks very dark, and I have no idea what's happening there, but it's very weird. Same on the scroll wheel, and this shot is also way too dark. I don't see any details there. On this one, we have a rather cool topology everywhere. I don't see any major problems except this big gap. On the real mouse, there is a gap, but it's not that big. There is a USB port, which is a nice detail. The curved surfaces look rather smooth, except this part. We can see in the reflection that there is some very small distortions. We can see it there. This is a pretty cool model, but be careful, the gaps are too big. If I take a look at the renders, the mouse looks pretty cool, pretty smooth. I like the normal map there. I think it's a little bit too strong on this side. The bump on this part is way bigger than the bump on this one, be careful. Okay, on this one, the topology looks very good. I don't have anything to say about it. The edge flow is good. You tried to do some edge reduction in this area. This is very good. The proportions are great. My only critique would be that hole behind the buttons. We can see inside of the mouse. Alright, that's a very good job. Let's take a look at the surfaces. Alright, as expected, everything looks nice and clean. I don't see any pinching anywhere. Alright, great. Okay, I don't have anything to say. It's a great model. Congratulations. Let's take a look at the renders. This is a very nice render. I like the glowing effect on the logo. I like the grid, but be careful, we have a very small offset in this area and in this area as well. The lighting is cool, the textures are okay. I think that the normal map is a little bit stretched here, I'm not sure. I think that the material should be a little bit darker, but again, that's not a problem. I like that depth of field, it's great. You did an amazing job, congratulations.